This is Mr. Warden. I'm going to talk about positive and negative and undefined and zero slope. So it's really useful to be able to just quickly recognize if a slope is positive or negative. And the way you can recognize it, the simple way of thinking of it is it's up to the right. If you're reading from left to right and the ground line goes up, then the slope is going to be positive. And the reason for that is as x changes, y changes in the same direction. So as x gets bigger, y gets bigger. So that's a positive divided by a positive. If we were going the other direction, as x gets smaller, y gets smaller. So the y changes negative, the x changes negative. If you're dividing a negative by a negative, either way, you get a positive slope. So up to the right is positive. And on the other hand, if you're going down to the right, you're going down the slope, and down the slope is going to be a negative slope. So that's negative. And of course, what's happening is as x is increasing, y is decreasing. They're going in opposite directions on their own respective number lines. So y's are getting smaller, x's are getting bigger. And if you're going in the other direction, as x is getting smaller, getting more negative, y is getting more positive. So x and y are going in opposite directions. So you're basically dividing a negative by a positive or a positive by a negative, in which either case you're going to get a negative slope. Now, some people get mixed up with the zero slope. Now, one way to remember it's undefined if it's vertical. The vertical line is a legitimate mathematical structure. However, it violates the vertical line test by being a vertical line. So it is not a function, so we're not in linear function land. Linear functions are going to have a defined slope. So a vertical slope is called undefined. And the reason for that is our change in y is something, but our change in x, the horizontal change is just zero. So there's some change in y divided by zero, and you cannot divide by zero. Do not do it. Dividing by zero means you're saying if I have 8 divided by 0, I am saying that there is some number of zeros that would make an 8, and there's no number of zeros that would ever make an 8. Okay, so this is an undefined slope. Vertical is undefined. Okay, undefined. Now, if it's a horizontal line, on the other hand, the change in y is 0. Okay, change in x is something. So here's where it comes out. So we get a change of y. Since there's no vertical change, the change of y is simply 0. It's a horizontal line. And the change in x is something. Something. Okay, that I swear says something. Okay, that is something. There's some value from horizontal change from here, say from here to here. There's some horizontal change, but there's 0 vertical change. Now, some people mix this up with this. 0 divided by something is 0. It would be exactly 0 somethings that would make a 0. So 0 divided by 8. 0 divided by 8, you can fit 0 eighths into making a 0. So 8 times 0 is 0, so the answer is 0. Horizontal lines have a 0 slope. So that's just a big fat 0. So to recap, up to the right here is positive slope, down to the right is negative slope. Vertical line is undefined. Cannot do it. Horizontal line has a 0 slope.